Serious question, do you keep your hips square in Warrior 3? How can you even tell if you're in good alignment? Stay with me because I'm going to show you how to keep in good alignment using two props. One is this here broomstick, and the other prop is about 3 dozen donuts. Keep watching because we're going to master your Warrior 3 right now. Hello magnificent human beings, my name is Landon Slaughter. This channel is all about fixing the kinks, deepening your knowledge so you can create a truly transformative yoga practice. Today is all about that good alignment in your Warrior 3. And if you would like to learn even more about your Warrior 3, a couple of cards will pop up here so that you can check that out. One is a how-to video that goes into a lot more depth, and another is a full class that revolves all around Warrior 3. If you are constantly falling out of this pose, then you may be getting a little ahead of yourself. There's a few common errors most people make, so let's look at what to avoid in your Warrior 3. You could be lowering the upper part of your body, your torso, down too much. Then you end up looking like some kind of drunk unicorn, only tilting down halfway from part of your body. You may be too focused on extending those arms out in front of you. Instead of extending those arms out, it's totally fine to keep your hands on your hips as you come down into this pose. And in fact, if you have chronic low back pain, it may be a good idea to just leave your hands on your hips. You may be coming into this pose way too fast, which is going to throw your balance completely off. Okay, class, coming into Warrior 3. Now that we know what to avoid, let's look at using a few of those props to come in to this posture. Tip number 1, focus on hinging from your hips. This is when the broomstick comes in handy. You want to keep a straight line through your leg, through your low back, all the way up. So as you hinge at your hips, then you're going to know if you're compensating in one area or another as you hinge at your hips and as you tilt on down. Tip number 2, keep your hips square by widening your hips. How will you even know if your hips are square or not as you come down? It's kind of hard to see exactly what our hips are doing. This is exactly when these 3 dozen donuts are going to come in handy. We really need to see those hips, so let's start getting our hips wider by eating all 3 dozen of these donuts. Wait a second. I could just use the broomstick for this. On a much healthier note, to help widen your hips, just use the broomstick. Stick 2 donuts at either end of the broomstick. That way, your hips are wider, and as you tilt down, you can see which side you might be favoring. And tip number 3, take your time hinging into Warrior 3. Take your time coming into Warrior 3, and when you start to compensate in one area or another, then you know this is going to be your cue to back off. Move the broomstick around and see where you can keep things nice and straight. Now that we got all the steps, let's look at putting it together. Step 1, focus on hinging from your hips, not bending at that low back and not bending your knee, rather keeping that straight line, hands can stay on your hips, and checking in with the broomstick as you need. Tip number 2 is to make sure your hips are square, widening those hips, right? So rather than eating all of these donuts, as you come down, just look at which way you're tilting. Too far off this way, too far off that way, and you can actually start to keep those hips square and notice which side you're favoring. And lastly, come slow into this posture. You don't want to whip into it. When you start to compensate in one area, that might be your sign to kind of back off and come back and take things slow. So very slowly, hinging, tilting, coming into your Warrior 3. And if you need to reposition the broomstick around to know if you're favoring one side or the other, doing that as well. And if you really want to dive into your Warrior 3, then check out my 25-minute full body flow that revolves all around this posture. And if you really want to take your practice to the next level, look in the description below, lots of resources there. One of them is a free 7-day course. And in one of those 7 days, we talk about alignment and we really dive into a cool trick to help keep your hips square in Warrior 3 beyond just using Broomstick. And as always, subscribe. I'm Landon Slaughter, helping you fix the kinks, deepen your knowledge, and transform your practice. Namaste.